Sweeping cost cuts for Boeing as the company continues to grapple with the workers' strike. Boeing has now announced a hiring freeze, a pause on non-essential staff travel, and a reduction in supplier spending to preserve cash. 30,000 of the plane maker's workers have been on industrial action since Friday after rejecting a tentative labor deal. The strike means most of Boeing's aircraft production has been halted. Chief Financial Officer Brian West said the company is, quote, working in good faith to reach a new contract agreement. West made it clear Boeing is not making cuts to funding when it comes to safety, quality and direct customer support work. Well, for more on Boeing's troubles, I'm joined now by Scott Hamilton. He's Managing Director at Leeham Company, which provides intelligence in the aviation industry. Very warm welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Hi there. So, did this strike come as a surprise to you? Because the workers rejected a deal that even their union leaders agreed to.
Well, the strike didn't really come as a surprise. What came as a surprise was the magnitude of the vote. 95% to reject the strike, 96% to go on. I'm sorry, 95% to reject the contract, 96% to reject to go on strike. That magnitude surprised everybody.
Scott, so the Boeing workers want a 40% pay raise and a return to a fixed pension benefit that they lost a decade ago. How realistic are these demands?
Well, they're never going to get a fixed pension back. That's just not in the cards. So they're going to have to figure out a different deal on that. 40%, that's probably a little rich, but will it be 35%? Maybe. And the reason for that, quite frankly, is that the base contract that expired last week was agreed to in 2008, and then there were two amendments to that in 2011, 2014 that granted concessions and capped wage increases, and the workers feel they've just fallen way behind on inflation.
Yes, and 2008, of course, was when that last strike was at Boeing, and that lasted 2 months. Do you see a repeat of that? How much longer do you think this will last? Because Monday's cost-cutting measures by Boeing seem to suggest they're buckling up for a bumpy ride ahead.
Well, I sure hope it won't be another 2 months. I'd like to see it resolved within 2 weeks. But the reason that Boeing is taking these cost-cutting measures is because all the crises back to back to back to back since 2019, when the 737 MAX was grounded for 21 months, have put Boeing in a very precarious financial condition. It's a far different position than it was in 2008.
And of course, Boeing stock, Scott, has tumbled by some 40% this year. What's the outlook in your estimation?
You know, until Boeing resolves the strike, until Boeing gets the production back up to where it was in March of 2019 before the MAX was grounded, until Boeing gets the 787 back up to production of 10 a month, which it's barely struggling at 4 a month right now, and you start getting those profits, you start getting that cash flow, the stock is going to remain depressed.
And earlier you brought up the financial health. Boeing has amassed, nearly $60 billion in debt, and now we know the company is also ordered to slow down production in the wake of that mid-air panel blowout earlier this year. So how healthy financially is Boeing now?
Well, the credit rating is one step above junk bond level, and at least two, if not all three, of the credit rating agencies have said that if the strike goes on, they could be downgraded into junk bond status.
That's not good news. You know, speaking of the strike, the union leader basically says that the workers have the most leverage and the most power they've ever had in history. Do you agree with that statement?
I do. You know, when Boeing is playing the weak hand, they really don't have the ability to just sit there for another 2-month strike. And I think John Holden, the president of the IAM local, is absolutely correct. They've got the upper hand here.
And a lot of it does boil down also to the reputation of Boeing, right? I mean, you brought it up, you know, it's taken a real hit following those two fatal crashes in 2018, 2019, the blowout earlier this year. You know, I'm looking at this and trying to figure out how does a loss in public confidence translate into dollars and cents for Boeing?
I think it's going to take a good 5 to 10 years before Boeing regains its reputation, before it regains its good financial balance sheet, before it comes out with a new airplane to restructure its product strategy. This is a long haul recovery for Boeing. It's not a short haul.
5 to 10 years. But also, I mean, if we look at it on the flip side, Boeing is essentially a duopoly in the aviation industry, along with Airbus. So, from a long term perspective, this isn't a company that's going anywhere, is it?
Well, one would think not, but it's not so much about Boeing not going anywhere. This is the opportunity for somebody else to come in and instead of a duopoly, make it a competition between three viable companies. And of course, China has its COMAC. Right now, they are not a viable competitor, but the Chinese are very patient people. They've got a long-term goal to become a third commercial global competitor. I wouldn't put it past them.